Doctors on committees. What is the role of the doctor who just happens to be committee member of a club? Any special obligation on that doctor beyond mere committee member? The liability for the nutter in your team. I grew up in South Wales. It was very dangerous playing club rugby in South Wales because one of the Valley teams always had the psycho in their team who you didn't know he was a psycho, you didn't know he'd been in prison last week, would be in prison next week, but actually could do anything on the field. Safety of pitches, safety of courses. Should doctors get involved in that? I think probably not. I was in a fairly newly designed inpatient psychiatric unit yesterday where there had been an attempted suicide. They essentially built it with ligature points, namely doors to ensuite bathrooms, which were relatively easy for patients to access with a knotted bedsheet. Doctors wouldn't usually get involved in designing hospitals. That's for architects. I think the same goes for most sports arenas, sports courses. You might remember the 1995 Rugby World Cup semi-final when they tried desperately to clear the water off Kings Park in Durban so France and South Africa could play. It wasn't really playable, but there was so much invested in this game. Was it dangerous? Would people have been caught at the bottom of rucks with their face in a couple of inches of water? Yes, it probably was. But economic forces won. The match went on. The unenviable task of the racecourse doctor, one of the more interesting MDU members I've encountered. The racecourse doctor has to deal with horrific injuries on the spot. It's a pretty grim form of A&E medicine in a way. But what exactly should that doctor be saying to his medical defence organisation, his insurer, about what he does? How often does he do it? How many days a year? Does the liability, does the risk alter as a result? There's an interesting case I haven't put on the list involving a jockey turned trainer called Philip Hyde. It's Hyde and Steeplechase Company, Cheltenham Limited, in 2013, went to the Court of Appeal. He had been riding hurdles at Cheltenham, and after clearing the first hurdle, he was on the outside, his horse stumbled and fell, causing him to fall, hit the ground, and move at speed into a post on the rail running around the outside of the track. He said that post had been placed too close to the perimeter of the course and should have been padded to prevent the impact. Lost at first instance before His Honour Judge Charles Harris, I think in Oxford, but went to the Court of Appeal and won using the work equipment regulations. Essentially, the court said, well, this is work equipment. Just because it's sport doesn't mean it's not work equipment at the rails, and so successful there, about £60,000 damages. But his injuries, a fractured pelvis leading to a total hip replacement, and a head injury requiring him to be placed in an induced coma. It doesn't sound £60,000 was very much for that sort of injury, but that's horse racing for you. Now,